Trump administration ends Power Africa initiative, a blow to energy access across the continent. In a move that has sparked widespread criticism, the Trump administration has dismantled the Power Africa initiative, a flagship program launched in 2013 under President Barack Obama to expand electricity access across Africa. The initiative, which aimed to bring power to millions of people in one of the world's most energy-poor regions, has been a cornerstone of U.S. development efforts on the continent. Its termination involves the shutdown of nearly all associated programs, significant staff layoffs, and the reassignment of a few initiatives that align with U.S. strategic interests. This decision is part of a broader restructuring of U.S. foreign assistance aimed at prioritizing national interests, according to a State Department spokesperson. However, critics argue that the move undermines years of progress and leaves millions of Africans in the dark. Literally, the end of Power Africa. What's at stake? Power Africa was launched with an ambitious goal to add 30,000 megawatts of electricity and connect 60 million households and businesses to power by 2030. At the time, nearly 600 million people in sub-Saharan Africa lacked access to electricity, a staggering figure that hindered economic growth, healthcare, education, and quality of life. The initiative brought together U.S. government agencies, private sector partners, and African governments to tackle this challenge head-on. By 2020, Power Africa had made significant strides, supporting projects that generated over 12,000 megawatts of electricity and connected more than 25 million people to power. These achievements were not just numbers, they represented real change for communities across the continent. For example, in rural Kenya, solar mini-grids funded by the initiative allowed small businesses to operate after sunset, boosting local economies. In Nigeria, off-grid solar systems provided electricity to remote clinics, enabling life-saving medical procedures. The termination of Power Africa threatens to undo this progress. Without U.S. support, many ongoing projects may stall, leaving communities without the energy access they were promised. For millions of Africans, this decision is more than a policy shift, it's a matter of survival. The broader context: U.S. foreign aid under scrutiny. The dismantling of Power Africa is part of a larger trend under the Trump administration to restructure U.S. foreign assistance. According to a State Department spokesperson, the goal is to ensure that aid programs better serve U.S. national interests. This has involved significant cuts to development programs, with Power Africa being one of the first targets in a federal spending reduction initiative led by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. While the administration argues that these changes are necessary to streamline operations and reduce waste, critics see them as short-sighted and detrimental to long-term U.S. interests. Cutting programs like Power Africa doesn't just hurt Africans, it hurts America, says John Smith, a development expert. Energy access is a cornerstone of economic growth, and by supporting it, we create markets for U.S. businesses and strengthen our diplomatic ties. Indeed, Power Africa was not just a humanitarian effort, it was also a strategic one. By partnering with African governments and private sector companies, the initiative opened doors for U.S. businesses to invest in the continent's growing energy sector. Its termination risks ceding this space to competitors like China, which has been aggressively expanding its presence in Africa through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative. The human impact: stories behind the statistics. Behind the statistics and policy debates are real people whose lives have been transformed by Power Africa. Take, for example, 35-year-old Fatima, a small business owner in Tanzania. Before Power Africa supported the installation of solar panels in her village, Fatima relied on kerosene lamps to run her shop after dark. The fumes were harmful, and the cost was high. With access to electricity, she was able to expand her business, hire employees, and provide for her family. Then there's 12-year-old Samuel, a student in rural Ghana. Before his school received solar-powered lights through a Power Africa initiative, Samuel struggled to study after sunset. "Now I can do my homework at night," he says. "I want to be a doctor one day, and this light is helping me get there." These stories highlight the transformative power of energy access. For millions of Africans, electricity is not just a convenience. It's a pathway to education, healthcare, and economic opportunity. The termination of Power Africa threatens to cut off this pathway, leaving communities like Fatima's and Samuel's in the dark. What's next? The dismantling of Power Africa raises urgent questions about the future of energy access in Africa. While some programs aligned with U.S. interests may be retained and reassigned to other agencies, the overall impact of the cuts is likely to be significant. In the absence of U.S. leadership, other actors may step in to fill the void. China, for example, has been investing heavily in Africa's energy sector, often with fewer strings attached than U.S. programs. While this may provide short-term solutions, it also raises concerns about debt dependency and the long-term sustainability of these projects. For the U.S., the challenge is to balance national interests with global responsibilities. As the world's largest economy and a leader in innovation, the U.S. has a unique opportunity to drive progress in energy access. Cutting programs like Power Africa not only undermines this opportunity, but also risks damaging America's reputation as a global leader. A step backward. The termination of Power Africa represents a step backward in the fight for energy access in Africa. For millions of people, the initiative was a beacon of hope, offering a chance to break free from the cycle of poverty and build a brighter future. Its dismantling is a reminder of the fragility of progress and the importance of sustained commitment to global development. As the world watches, the question remains, will the U.S. rise to the occasion and reaffirm its commitment to energy access, or will it cede this critical space to others? The answer will have far-reaching implications, not just for Africa, but for the world. What do you think about the Trump administration's decision to end Power Africa? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this and other pressing global issues. South African peacekeepers evacuated from Congo amid escalating rebel offensive. A crisis unfolds. In a dramatic turn of events, a group of critically injured South African peacekeepers has been evacuated from the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, following intense clashes with M23 rebels. The soldiers, who had been receiving treatment in Goma, a city now under rebel control, are part of a larger contingent facing one of the deadliest offensives in recent years. The M23 rebels, reportedly bolstered by approximately 4,000 Rwandan troops, have intensified their campaign in Congo's mineral-rich east, leading to significant casualties and mass displacement. The South African National Defense Force, SANF, has confirmed that more injured soldiers are expected to return home, including those requiring urgent medical attention. This latest development comes just months after 14 South African peacekeepers lost their lives in January, raising serious questions about the preparedness and discipline of South African troops in the region. The battlefront, a war for resources and power. The eastern DRC has long been a hotspot for conflict, driven by its vast reserves of gold, diamonds, and coltan, a mineral essential for electronics. The M23 rebel group, which emerged in 2012, has been a key player in this volatile region. Backed by Rwandan troops, the group has launched a fierce offensive, capturing key territories and displacing thousands of civilians. For South African peacekeepers, the mission has been fraught with danger. Deployed as part of the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the DRC, MONUSCO, their mandate is to protect civilians and stabilize the region. However, the escalating violence has pushed them to their limits. The recent clashes have left dozens injured, with some in critical condition. The evacuation of these soldiers underscores the severity of the situation and the high human cost of the conflict. The fall of Goma, a strategic city in the region, to M23 rebels is a significant blow to peacekeeping efforts. Goma serves as a hub for humanitarian operations and a base for MONUSCO forces. Its capture not only disrupts these operations, but also emboldens the rebels who now control key supply routes and resources. The human toll, stories behind the headlines. Behind the statistics and military jargon are real people whose lives have been upended by the conflict. Take, for example, 28-year-old Private Thabo, one of the injured South African peacekeepers evacuated from Goma. Thabo, a father of two, joined the SANDF to provide for his family. "I never thought it would be this bad," he says from his hospital bed. "We were outnumbered and outgunned. It was chaos." Then there's 35-year-old Marie, a Congolese mother of three who fled her village after it was attacked by M23 rebels. "They burned our homes and took everything," she says. "We walked for days to reach Goma, only to find it under rebel control. There's no safe place for us." These stories highlight the human cost of the conflict, which has displaced over 1.5 million people and left countless others in dire need of humanitarian assistance. For South African peacekeepers and Congolese civilians alike, the situation is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the region. Questions of preparedness and discipline. The evacuation of injured peacekeepers has reignited debates about the preparedness and discipline of South African troops in the DRC. Earlier this year, the deaths of 14 peacekeepers in January raised serious concerns about the SANDF's ability to handle the escalating violence. Reports of misconduct, including allegations of looting and sexual exploitation by peacekeepers, have further tarnished the mission's reputation. Critics argue that the SANDF is ill-equipped for the challenges of modern peacekeeping. "Our troops are brave, but they're not getting the support they need," says military analyst Sifo Dlamini. "They're facing well-armed rebels with superior numbers and resources. Without proper training and equipment, they're being sent into a meat grinder." The South African government has pledged to investigate the allegations of misconduct and improve conditions for its troops. However, with the conflict showing no signs of abating, the pressure is on to deliver results. What's next? A call for international action. The escalating violence in the DRC demands urgent international attention. While MONUSCO has been instrumental in maintaining a fragile peace, its efforts are being stretched thin by the rebel offensive. The international community must step up its support, both in terms of resources and diplomacy, to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. For South Africa, the challenge is to balance its commitment to peacekeeping with the need to protect its troops. This may involve reassessing its role in the DRC and advocating for a more robust international response. Ultimately, the path to peace in the DRC will require more than military solutions. It will require addressing the root causes of the conflict, including poverty, inequality, and governance. Only then can the region hope to break free from the cycle of violence. A fragile peace at risk. The evacuation of South African peacekeepers from the DRC is a stark reminder of the challenges facing peacekeeping missions in conflict zones. For the soldiers on the front lines and the civilians caught in the crossfire, the stakes couldn't be higher. As the international community grapples with this crisis, the question remains, will it rise to the occasion and take decisive action, or will the DRC continue to descend into chaos? What do you think about the situation in the DRC and the role of South African peacekeepers? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this and other pressing global issues. Russia strengthens ties with Guinea-Bissau, a strategic play in Africa's geopolitical chessboard. In a move that underscores Russia's growing ambitions in Africa, President Vladimir Putin recently hosted Guinea-Bissau's President Umaro Sissoco Embalo at the Kremlin. The high-profile meeting, which included Russian metals tycoon Oleg Deripaska, signals Moscow's intent to deepen economic and security ties with the West African nation. Discussions centered on potential Russian investments in Guinea-Bissau's infrastructure, including the construction of a railway and port, as well as the exploration of bauxite resources through Deripaska's aluminum company, Rusal. For Embalo, who faces domestic opposition and alleged coup attempts, the partnership offers a lifeline. For Russia, it's another strategic move in its broader campaign to expand influence across Africa, often at the expense of former colonial powers like France. The Kremlin meeting, what's on the table? The meeting between Putin and Embalo was more than just a diplomatic handshake. It was a calculated move to secure Russia's foothold in West Africa. At the heart of the discussions were plans to develop Guinea-Bissau's infrastructure, a critical need for the small, resource-rich nation. Russian metals magnate Oleg Deripaska, whose company Rusal is a global leader in aluminum production, was a key participant in the talks. This suggests that Russia is eyeing Guinea-Bissau's untapped bauxite reserves, a key ingredient in aluminum production. But it's not just about bauxite. Russia has proposed building a railway and port in Guinea-Bissau, projects that could transform the country's economy by improving transportation and trade links. For a nation that has long struggled with poverty and underdevelopment, these investments could be a game changer. However, critics warn that such deals often come with strings attached. Russia's growing influence in Africa has frequently involved the deployment of mercenaries from the Wagner Group, a shadowy private military company with close ties to the Kremlin. These mercenaries have been used to prop up regimes, counter insurgencies, and secure access to resources, raising concerns about the long-term implications of Russia's involvement. Why Guinea-Bissau? A strategic gem in West Africa. Guinea-Bissau may be small, but it holds significant strategic value. Located on the West African coast, it offers access to the Atlantic Ocean, making it an attractive location for a port. The country is also rich in natural resources, including bauxite, phosphates, and offshore oil reserves. For Russia, which has been increasingly isolated by Western sanctions, Guinea-Bissau represents an opportunity to diversify its economic partnerships and secure access to critical resources. For President Embalo, the partnership with Russia is a strategic move to bolster his domestic standing. Since taking office in 2020, Embalo has faced numerous challenges, including opposition protests and alleged coup attempts. By aligning with Russia, he gains a powerful ally that can provide both economic support and security assistance. However, this move is not without risks. Guinea-Bissau has a history of political instability, and closer ties with Russia could exacerbate tensions with former colonial power, Portugal, and other Western nations. Russia's African playbook: mercenaries, minerals, and influence. Russia's courtship of Guinea-Bissau is part of a broader strategy to expand its influence in Africa. Over the past decade, Moscow has steadily increased its presence on the continent, leveraging a combination of economic deals, military support, and disinformation campaigns. The Wagner Group, often described as Putin's private army, has played a key role in this strategy. From the Central African Republic to Mali, Wagner mercenaries have been deployed to support regimes, counter insurgencies, and secure access to resources. This approach has allowed Russia to challenge the influence of former colonial powers like France, which has seen its dominance in West and Central Africa wane in recent years. In countries like Mali and Burkina Faso, anti-French sentiment has created an opening for Russia to position itself as an alternative partner. By offering military support and economic investments, Russia has been able to build alliances with African leaders while undermining Western influence. However, Russia's growing presence in Africa has not been without controversy. The Wagner Group has been accused of human rights abuses, including extrajudicial killings and torture. In some cases, Russian mercenaries have been implicated in the very conflicts they were sent to resolve. These actions have raised concerns about the long-term impact of Russia's involvement in Africa, particularly for the civilians caught in the crossfire. The bigger picture: a new Cold War in Africa? Russia's push into Guinea-Bissau is part of a larger geopolitical contest for influence in Africa. As Western powers like France and the United States scale back their presence on the continent, Russia and China have stepped in to fill the void. For African nations, this competition offers both opportunities and risks. On one hand, it provides access to much-needed investment and support. On the other, it risks entangling these countries in a new Cold War, with rival powers vying for control. For Guinea-Bissau, the partnership with Russia could bring significant benefits, but it also comes with risks. The country's history of political instability and corruption makes it vulnerable to exploitation. If the deals with Russia are not managed transparently, they could exacerbate existing problems and deepen the country's dependence on foreign powers. A delicate balancing act. Russia's growing ties with Guinea-Bissau highlight the complex dynamics of Africa's geopolitical landscape. For President Embalo, the partnership offers a chance to secure much-needed support, but it also comes with significant risks. For Russia, it's another step in its campaign to expand its influence in Africa, often at the expense of Western powers. As the world watches, the question remains, will this partnership bring prosperity and stability to Guinea-Bissau, or will it deepen the country's vulnerabilities? The answer will depend on how both nations navigate the challenges ahead. What do you think about Russia's growing influence in Africa and its partnership with Guinea-Bissau? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this and other pressing global issues.